A lot to remind you of. Key dates for the CFP. January 1st is an important one to remember. Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl that night, and of course January 11th, the season ends in Miami with the national championship. Michael is up next in Tennessee as we begin to wind down. Hey, Michael, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Hey, as a fellow VFL, I was going to get your thoughts on the Arkansas State hire, and now that Tennessee's done paying Butch Jones their millions, what do you think that hire looks like for them, and what do you think we have going forward as far as coaching narrative?
Yeah, I think it's really good news for Tennessee, and Butch Jones ended up where he should be after what he's been through. As far as Jeremy Pruitt, I don't know. I'm really concerned about the way this season ends. I'm not sure what the impact of the slide will have on recruiting. If he can hold on to the recruiting class, I think he's got some oxygen going into next year, but he does need to avoid a bad loss Saturday. I mean, this game needs to be competitive.
I agree. I also hope they have a whole lot of bricks in Arkansas State.
I guarantee you Arkansas's Jonesboro is known for its bricks. Hey, thank you very much. Mike is in California. Mike, thanks. How are you?
Paul, I was just talking about LSU. One of the greatest football players I ever saw, I'm 72 years old, was Billy Cannon from LSU.
Hard to find a better one than Billy Cannon. I agree.
And not only that, but he became a dentist.
He sure did.
And he helped a lot of people in prisons. He was a prison dentist. But as far as an athlete, I never saw a better football player than Billy Cannon.
Yeah, no, his story, I've had the opportunity to interview him a couple of times, and the fact that he became a prison dentist is a fact. But he also went to prison because of a very unfortunate counterfeiting deal. And exactly. I would say, I know the other night is certainly going to rival in last year, but the Halloween run remains the most epic moment, I think, singular moment in LSU history. Billy Cannon will forever be known. I realize that was in the late 50s, but 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, they'll still be talking about it and replaying that. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it very, very much. Jim is in South Carolina. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, Paul. I appreciate you and your show.
Thank you.
And your impact and influence of what you do for college football. My question, Paul, is simply this, and that is, I know Kevin Steele is a great defensive coordinator, but how in the world can he be the number one candidate at Auburn, replacing somebody like Gus, who went 77-38 over 8 years at Auburn and 1 year at Arkansas State, and never had a losing season? I understand that Gus became somewhat stale there at Auburn, and Auburn needed to possibly make a change in their mind. But how do you take a guy that went 9-36 at Baylor and make him the number one candidate? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Jim, I think they'll have a hard time selling that. Now, I understand why he may be the favorite tonight. And by the way, these things can change. Ultimately, the president has to sign off on it, not a bunch of guys in a smoke-filled room.
That's right.
The way things have normally been done at Auburn, as you and I both know. But the president is a little different. This is not a president that really cares what anybody thinks. He was.
That's true.
He was brought back because the previous president was incompetent, and I need to know who else they're talking to, or serious about, because Kevin Steele is a safe choice. He could turn out to be a popular choice, but the immediate release on that is going to be reviewed poorly by the national media. And I know Auburn people don't care. Chiswick's hire was highly criticized. I mean, I think his record at Iowa State was something like 6-21 or something.
Right.
I mean,
right.
but it was understandable why there was a change made after Tuberville. There are a lot of people who are still not on board with this decision, as you have eloquently said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you. That does make sense, and I guess we'll wait and see how it all unfolds. But appreciate everything you're doing.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for the kind words. Unfortunately, we are out of time. It's been a busy one, a lot of conversation going here, a lot about Kevin Steele, from some of our guests, including John Talty. Vandy has a new coach, Clark Lee, from Vanderbilt guy who is a DC at Notre Dame. We are done. We'll pick it again up on Wednesday. We thank all of you for being a part of the program and hope you have a great evening.
Tonight from Knoxville, Tennessee, the 10th-ranked team in the country, the Tennessee Volunteers, put their undefeated record on the line against the Mountaineers of Appalachian State. This is Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville. Tom Hart alongside Jimmy Dykes. Rick Barnes' squad, Jimmy, has had an interrupted schedule, and they have an interruptive defense. They've been fantastic on that end this year.
Yeah, fantastic pictures, by the way, of you and I. Well, Rick Barnes has a real squad on the defensive end of the floor. And these are real numbers when you consider their 2 games against Colorado and Cincinnati, quality opponents. They can absolutely lock you down. What I think separates Tennessee from a lot of teams right now across the country, Tom, is their defensive depth. When guys come in, the defensive intensity goes up. They're led by E. Pons in that area, but this is a Tennessee team. Final 4 good right now defensively. The offense has to catch up.
Appalachian State has great defense as well. They put up some impressive numbers this year.
Yeah, it's a hard-nosed, grinding group that Coach Kearns can really coach hard, and they kind of mirror Tennessee in terms of how they play the game, how they see the game, what they value. They can lock in and defend very well.
Santiago Vescovi runs the point. Josiah Jordan James gets a touch. It's a normal starting 5 for this Tennessee team. And here's John Fulkerson in the paint. Getting it where he's comfortable. And a beautiful turnaround jumper for the senior Fulkerson. Let's take a look at the starters for Appalachian State. And the Mountaineers coming in at 4-1. Their starters brought to you by Farm Rich.
App State has not seen the type of defensive pressure that Tennessee is going to put on them tonight. They love to utilize the middle third of the floor with back screen action, play off the elbows. It will not be easy to get good looks against a team in white.
Talked with Rick Barnes today. He mentioned anybody can start to break for him. Starters brought to you by Farm Rich. The high-flying E. Pons and Fulkerson inside. A wing 3 is off the market. Tennessee team not shooting the ball real well to start this season. 308th in effective field goal percentage.
Tom, they're only making Tennessee 4 3-point shots per game at 29%. Rick Barnes has told me over the last month we are a much better shooting ball club than what our numbers have shown so far.
Shot clock into single digits. Michael Amonisi will set it up for App. Shot clock at 3, contested 3. And App comes away with the board.
That was one of Tennessee's problems last year, was rebounding the basketball. They've upgraded it with their personnel, with their big wing guards in that freshman class. The Anasicki kid can really defend. If you're App State tonight, you're going to have to get some second opportunities. I think this Tennessee defense, Tom, can really keep you out of the lane. They can force tough shots. They challenge shots. And the team in black has to be able to get some stuff done on the offensive glass.
App's averaging 81 points a game. They have a very inconsistent, like most, schedule so far this season. Some non-D1s in the mix have allowed their numbers to get inflated on the offensive end, but they're coming off of a really good win on the road in Charlotte on Friday. Here's Bailey, the lefty. Smooth jumper for the junior from Austin, Texas, who set out last year, transferring in from Oregon.
Tom, he can shoot it, and that time he just worked off of a little step-up ball screen at the bottom of the floor. And Tennessee's not heavy with their ball screen offense. They are a move you, screen you, block you type system. That time working off a ball screen, well done.
Justin Kearns talked to us about that today, and he said it's kind of a throwback offense in that regard. Anybody else who's running ball screen stuff. Vescovi to Fulkerson. He got deep in a hurry. And App fights for it. It'll be Tennessee basketball up 4-zip.
It's a physical defensive team that Rick Barnes can put on the floor. And it also pays off on the offensive end. Watch the action off the ball tonight, how physical, man, just body blow after body blow when they set screens.
Fulkerson will offer one. Bailey works it inside to the big fella. Shot clock at 7. Nice up and under move, and the ball fake for Fulkerson for his second bucket of the night.
Yeah, Fulke, his feet are so good, and he's not a post player that stands and watches the action and thinks, okay, what's going to happen next? Like, he plays the game ahead on that post position with really good feet.
App because you have to make a bucket. That trend continues. 0 for 4. Pons the board.
Just because Tennessee is going to hit you hard on the defensive glass, App State has to play through that contact tonight, Tom. They've got to get on the offensive glass.
Bailey misses another jumper. Tennessee 0 for 2 from 3. And a couple misses point blank. Jimmy, I was looking at the numbers, and yet Tennessee's not great from 3. I got to be honest, they're downright ugly from 2. 36% from 2. That's 308th in the country.
They missed more rim shots than about any team in college basketball right now. Now the good news is they're getting the ball in there with a high velocity in terms of how many times they get the ball near the rim in the game. They just aren't finishing yet. And I'm pretty sure tonight Rick Barnes starts 5 left-handers in the starting lineup. Am I correct on that?
Well, you're right.
How they have to be the only team in college ball with 5 lefties in the starting lineup.
Including Santiago Vescovi. Keon Johnson, one of those talented freshmen, 5-star recruit, checks into the game, as does E.J. Anosicki. Transfer from Sacred Heart, a rebounding machine.
Well, the 2 5-star recruits, Springer and Keon Johnson, have both checked in. 45 and 11 in white are the 2 5-star freshmen. They are 5-star recruits with a 3-star heart, toughness, fight. They will put their nose on the ball like an upperclassman defensively. They are tremendous at this end of the floor.
They fit the Rick Barnes profile, huh?
Well, yeah, they've learned how to practice. And that's a simple statement. A lot of dudes with 5 stars don't know how to practice. They learn quickly under Rick Barnes.
Springer's hands got in there to force the turnover. The Pons miss. Run out, and he erased it at the rim. Air Pons at it again.
He fixes more mistakes than any defender in college basketball, and he does it with a flair. Tom, the recovery speed, the recovery length, the recovery quickness, my goodness, best defensive player in the country.
To know if it's McGee Tyson or Knoxville Downtown Island Airport, but E. Pons, the player to watch, has been taken off since he arrived in Knox Vegas. Jimmy, a lot of people have taken notice of what he does well.
Well, I said going to break that he's the best defender in all of college basketball. I tweeted it last night, and the Ball Nation loved it, but I really believe it. And I've seen some terrific defenders already this year. The Charles Bassey kid at Western Kentucky, Tom, leads the country in blocks. Jacob Gilliard from Richmond is just a pest in terms of a steal guy. Had Marcus Garrett at Kansas the other night, who's a very good all-around defender. He was the National Defensive Player of the Year last year. They can't do what this guy does, though, in terms of how he fixes the problems, the block shots, the switch ability, the talk. I just think he's the bar setter right now in terms of what the best defender in college basketball should look like. Phenomenal talent on that end.
See another one tomorrow afternoon on the SEC Network. Jacob Gilliard from Richmond led the nation in steals last year. They'll be in Nashville to take out Vandy. Little lean in, and the 5-star freshman Jaden Springer gets his first.
He really plays well, Springer, off of 2 feet. You go watch those last 2 ball games. When he comes in, he's under control. He's a powerful guard. Gets to that mid-range game really, really well. And the ball pressure by Tennessee continues.
Ball's pitching a shutout so far. App 0 for 5 from the floor. And a turnover. And that's a third turnover to go with an 0 for 5 start for the Mountaineers.
Well, they're just smothering you. Tennessee is defensively. There's the playing off of 2 feet I talked about with Springer. Under control, drive gaps, can get dirty baskets. Just a hard-nosed, tough kid. Becoming tougher with a harder nose the more he's under Rick Barnes.
Keon Johnson will run the point now for Tennessee. They're undefeated against App, a series that dates to 1986. Tennessee 5-0 against the Mountaineers. Pons from 14.
Yeah, it's too easy. I know what Dustin's thinking. They've got to change his defense and see if the zone can get something going, but you have to cover that logo area. Pons is terrific operating in that spot. App State has to drive the ball and get Tennessee in a crowd and then play out of that crowd. Just not able to do it at any spot right now.
That's their 4th turnover. A step in on the run out, and the freshman misses a couple from up close as Keon Johnson couldn't finish. Straight out, and that'll be the first 3 of the game for Tennessee. Josiah Jordan James.
You see Tennessee just pounding away on the offensive glass, and Joe James that's his first made 3-point shooter of the year, but he is the ultimate glue guy, I think, for Tennessee right now. He stars in that role. We forget that number 5 in white was a 5-star recruit himself, and he is learning to star in that what do you need from me tonight role for Rick Barnes.
A McDonald's All-America for Barnes, who, by the way, is 30-0 all-time against Sun Belt Conference teams. Had a great visit with the Hickory, North Carolina native today. He said, yeah, had a lot of friends that went to school up at App, just less than an hour away up the hill from Hickory. 6th season as a head coach on Rocky Top, and the 2019 Naismith College Coach of the Year.
Talking about Tennessee, how they go about their day in terms of what they believe in, what they emphasize, what they don't get away from. They are right there with Gonzaga in terms of that. You can call it whatever, the culture, whatever, but the consistency, the balance of what Mark Few believes in, how he handles himself as a coach, right there with Rick Barnes. I think those 2 programs, Tennessee and Gonzaga, have the best culture in college basketball right now.
Tyson Kearns is the head coach for Appalachian State. He's from East Tennessee. Dobbins Bennett guy up from Kingsport. 2nd season as the head coach. And he's brought a blue-collar defense-first mentality from Presbyterian College, where they won 20 games. 18 wins last year for App.
Yeah, he's really respected, Dustin Kearns, as a young coach. He had a heck of a player at Presbyterian, the kid at Baylor now. Adam Flagler, actually, he played as a freshman for Dustin at Presbyterian. Now he's one of Scott Drew's better guards. But this guy's all about the right things. I know they're down 13-0 right now, but they stand for the right things. There's no entitlement allowed in any part of his program. And he's a guy to keep an eye on going forward because he's going to be terrific.
He's worked for some great coaches, by the way. He was a GA here in Knoxville for Buzz Peterson back in the day. He's on Mike Young's staff at Wofford, Kerry Keating out of Santa Clara. Kendall Lewis at the line, sophomore from Snellville, Georgia. And he goes 1 of 2 from the stripe. Fulkerson looking for the lob back there. Doesn't come. Out to James. And he hits his second triple after coming in 0 for 3 in the season.
Tom, that was a beautiful example of driving the ball into the crowd, but then getting the ball out of the crowd for an open shot. He didn't try to make a play in the crowd. He got into the crowd, but then got the ball out. And that's exactly how, when you talk about how you want to attack a zone, that was it to perfection.
Tennessee came in shooting just 34% on the season. They're 47% here in the first 7 minutes tonight. App can't make a thing. And then a foul inside might be on James on the rebound. App is 0 for 6.
Tom, App State's not helping themselves against a team as athletic and as big as Tennessee. You've got to get the ball from one side of the floor to the other and possibly back to the third side and try to get these guys in white in a long closeout where you're catching the ball. The closest defender is 10 or 12 feet away, and now you've got him at a closeout, and now it's advantage App State. So far, they have not been able to do it one time.
Donovan Gregory knocks down 1 of 2. Sophomore out of Charlotte. Jimmy, it seems to me that this is a Tennessee team that has a lot of offensive they have a lot of offensive weapons, even though we haven't seen them through just 2 games so far this season.
No, they do. And the offensive numbers right now are brutal, but those numbers are going to improve. Tom, they've missed a ton of time. They have been completely thrown out of rhythm, and it probably shows up on the offensive end more so than the defensive end. But the one thing I love about Tennessee is the number of times they are getting to the free throw stripe through 2 ball games. They have made more. They've made twice as many free throws as the opponents have attempted this year. That's how you win games.
Step back for Almonacci in the first field goal of the night for App. Quick answer the other way, and a bucket for Keon Johnson. Rick Barnes told us just about anybody on the floor can start the break. They can run out with it, and we want to play at a tempo that will give us some easy looks.
Yeah, that was after a make, and that's all on App State. You're on the road, and you see the ball get through the net, and you don't run back to the paint to build a wall. And that's all on you.
Another one for Almonacci. Muscovy pushed it, and Tennessee gets a reverse layup out of it for Jaden Springer.
Tennessee, they're so good at not settling for jump shots. Rick Barnes over the years, go back to Grant Williams and Schofield, he is so good as an offensive coach getting the ball around the rim. Off the drive, off the pass, off the back screens. That is Tennessee basketball at its best.
A 20-6 start for the Volunteers. Jaden Springer, the freshman, off the bench. Able to take it off the glass with the reverse. And Tennessee shooting the ball well now. They've made 6 of 8. Has your favorite spot on the floor changed over the last few years?
I think it has. After watching Grant Williams have so much success here at Tennessee and in Coach Barnes' system, and him listening to the coaches and him run the plays and him doing what they asked him to do, and watching him have all that success, after watching them, I learned a lot from them. And so just trying to take stuff from them and put it into my own game. And so I think that's what's helped me.
Great visit with John Fulkerson today. And Jimmy, part of that discussion was when he came here, he wanted to be a guy that could work on the perimeter, just as Grant Williams wanted to be when he first got Tennessee. And he saw the development of those guys that are now in the NBA, and what great basketball role models, if not life role models, if you're talking Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, and the like.
Yeah, they set the foundation that really is not going to move going forward for Tennessee. And not only is it paying off for a guy like Fulke, who has learned from an upperclassman how to play the game and how to trust Coach Barnes, it's also paying off in recruiting. Because when guys like Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson signed to become a Tennessee Vol, they talked about how they appreciate the hard work and the development of players under Rick Barnes. And there's a lot of layers that fall from that era with Grant and Schofield.
Bailey skips it off the top of the rim. Tennessee back in the top 10 for the first time since the end of the 19 season. What an incredible foundation that was.
That's a 5-out offense by App State. All 5 guys outside that 3-point line. You have to have the ability to find a crease and draw 2 and get kicks. If you can't, this lead's going to continue to grow.
Just like running shell in practice. Just
absolutely
swinging it around. We got a foul in the perimeter on the drive by Jaden Springer, and that'll be Montesey, Southern New Hampshire transfer.
Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson as well, but especially Jaden Springer, number 11. He's just a bully guard, like 6'4", 200 pounds. Just a tough, rugged driver, finisher. Really good basketball player for a young kid.
Fulkerson with the putback. He's got a half dozen here early on. 14-point lead for UT.
Dustin Kern's not happy with anything with his club right now. That shot went. Nobody in a black jersey put a forearm into the chest of a white jersey. Just a little shell shock, it seems, right now for these guys out of Boone. One of my favorite college towns, by the way.
And you spent some time there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite college towns. I was an assistant coach there for a year. I love Boone, North Carolina.
Keon Johnson, what a finish. First the rip and then the flush.
Keon Johnson is being projected as a lottery pick. Now, certainly could that change going forward? Yes, but it may stay the same because of his body and his toughness on the defensive end. One of those, kind of like Okoro at Auburn. That's kind of who I compare him to. Just a big, strong, knock you in the nose as a young kid.
He even has a little bit more length than Isaac Okoro, who's already taken the NBA by storm. Had a great game the other night. I think he's with Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken.
You know what I appreciate about Keon Johnson? A lot of things. Talking about 45 and white. The other night, Rick Barnes had to take him out of the game against Cincinnati and kind of jumped him on the sidelines. And for about 30 seconds, Tom, Keon Johnson looked Rick Barnes right in the eye, never blinked, and at the end of the conversation said, "Yes, sir," went and sat down and got his water bottle. No entitlement whatsoever out of 45 and white.
Fulkerson commits the foul.
This kid he really attacks the basketball. When you attack him, he's a gap defender. He attacks that ball really well with 2 strong hands. But his listening skills, Tom Hart, something you could learn from.
No doubt about it.
I talk to you, your eyes are wandering, you're rolling your eyes at me. On your phone, come on.
Jimmy, I got 4 different screens in front of me. I got to let my attention's go in a lot of different places.
Look me in the eye, don't blink, and just say yes, sir, and move on.
Yes, sir. App down 18. They need to look at the rim.
Yeah, that is a problem. You know what's not a problem tonight is the Tennessee Nation. They have taken over the Tennessee Twitter account, Vol Twitter Takeover. So those fans are weighing in right now on that Tennessee Twitter site. And I'm sure there's some great comments going on. Love the Vol Nation. You talk about a fan base that they are all in this basketball team. It's as good a place as we go, Tom, in the SEC when the Thompson Bowling is rocking.
No doubt about it. Hans looking for an entry. Can't get it to him. There it is. Tried to go high-low and it was knocked away. Is the app zone looking a little bit better here?
A little bit. I mean, Tennessee's patient, though. Just the next time Tennessee has the ball, which is now, just watch the SEC logo. Like, literally just watch that logo and watch the bodies come in there and the ball follow. Then good things are happening for Tennessee. 6 on the shot clock, so it may not be quite as important on this possession.
There it is. Had it at the logo. Shot clock winding down. And unaware. Olivier Kamwa just into the game. And then after gives it right back. Fulkerson with the steal after they got loose with it.
Yeah, Tom, you cannot be loose with a basketball against Tennessee. Again, Tennessee in the gaps defensively, they attack the ball with 2 hands. They don't reach and kind of sissy ball you. They go at it now. And if you're not a grown man with the ball against Tennessee, there's a lot of turnovers going to pile up on you.
Here's Vescovi off the mark. Oh, we should point out that Appalachian State is without senior Justin Forrest in this game. This would have been his 100th game of his career. He's preseason all-conference selection. He suffered concussion in the last game. He is out for this, did not make the trip. And so they're missing some firepower. Kamwa goes spilling down. No numbers for Vescovi.
Yeah, he really fell hard in that game against Charlotte, talking about Forrest. 16, 17 points a game last year, all Sun Belt, off to a slow start this year, but just another guy that is capable of getting his own that Appalachian State doesn't have tonight.
Poked away by James Lewis Jr., but it'll be Tennessee basketball when we all return to Thompson Bowling Arena. It's the Vols by 18.
In studio, we want to update a couple of the games going on, including Texas A&M at home against Southeast Louisiana. Savion Flagg, 9 early points for him. A&M is up 9. Auburn hosting former LSU head coach Johnny Jones and Texas Southern. Devin Cambridge, his lone 3. Auburn up 5. 6.5 to go in the first, guys.
Okay, Dari, thank you. 24-6, Tennessee in front of Appalachian State. CFP rankings just came out. Texas A&M holding steady at number 5. Jimmy, I know you're all in on that. Appalachian is just 2 for 14 to start this game. Where can they find some looks?
Well, they haven't had an unchallenged shot yet. So first of all, we know Tennessee defensively is as good as we have in the college game right now. If you're Appalachian State, Tom, that ball can't stick. It has to move. You've got to get to the second or third side of the floor, and then someone has to have the courage to drive a gap, make the white jerseys converge, and get a kick out and maybe another drive. Because right now, you said it earlier, it's almost like Appalachian State is running 5-on-0 shell offense. The ball is not going inside off the pass or the bounce. Or the pass or the pounce.
Yeah, there's no pouncing going on.
It's just not going in there at all.
Sensational defense. It's another Tennessee takeaway. Fulkerson will take it himself. 8 early for the senior.
Tom, there's no drop-off. I know Fulkerson got the steal, but there's no drop-off defensively when Rick Barnes goes to his bench. There's not a lot of teams that I've seen this year that I can say that when their 8th or 9th guy checks in, there's not a little bit of drop, a slippage. Sure. Not with Tennessee.
Rick Barnes was asked about especially the 5-star freshman starting versus not starting, and he said, I don't really believe in starting. It's about minutes, and I know people want to start, and I know players think it's important, but he's the kind of coach, Jimmy, it's who can I trust to be on the floor in crunch time?
Well, this is a program, Rick Barnes, that if you are stubborn as a freshman or anyone and you fight the system, you're not going to play at Tennessee. It doesn't matter what your ranking is, how many stars you have, and it's an adjustment for everyone that comes through this program. It was for Grant Williams, it was for Folke, just keep on going down the line. But there's a right way to play the game in this guy's eyes, and it's defensively, toughness, moving the ball, setting hard screens, being physical. It's that it's not about me, which is that's Tennessee's. That's their slogan. It's everywhere in their locker room, and it's playing selfless basketball.
Vescovi shares it. It's kind of like me broadcasting a selfless game, setting you up to be successful. If I took all the words, that wouldn't last. Vescovi with the left in the lane.
Vescovi is quicker than he is because he's smart, and wisdom equates to speed on the basketball court, and he can really read angles awfully well for a big 6'4" point guard.
This guy's played a lot of basketball. Reach in by James. It's his second.
No, Vescovi has a good mid-range game. He's an outstanding layup maker, and that's a long layup is what that was by 25 in white. And has the right hand progressed? I'm not sure yet. Haven't seen a lot of it. But he is so good at just that mid-range pull-up, long layup type stuff.
Remember, he's still not quite a year in residence in Knoxville. He showed up last December 28th. They cleared him about a week later. He came out first game, dropped 18, including 6 threes.
Yeah, but he also gave it up about 9 times in that game.
I wasn't going to go there.
Story. But you're right. Like, I didn't realize he hasn't even been in the United States yet a full year. And to watch him play, though, he quickly absorbed how Rick Barnes sees the game and wants to pass. Wasn't it?
Lead and finish.
Where did it come from? Where did the pass come from, Tom?
The logo.
Exactly. Well done.
I've always thought that logo. You're a music guy. You cut a record or two. You know those things that go inside 45s? Go on the peg. I've always thought the logo, when you see it on the floor like that, it kind of looks like whatever that thing is called.
You are going old school.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves at this point.
Push it, run. Rick Barnes told us today that no matter which of those wings or guards get it, man, come, run. And what you have now, Tom, is you've got wings that are interchangeable. They can push it. They can also run ahead and be the finisher. And there's that terrific look by Folke without any hesitation to the baseline cut. And Rick Barnes shared with me earlier today that he's had to kind of light a fire under Fulke a little bit over the last week or two, but Fulke has to be Fulke. And what I mean by that is he's got to be the hardest playing dude on the floor. I think he got the message.
Mid-range for Pons is off the mark. He made a 14-footer earlier. It's this Tennessee team whose schedule has been interrupted a number of times. 5 cancellations already early in this season. And Rick Barnes was telling us today, we hope to get to 25 games. And they're still taking calls and making calls. And you got television networks proposing games for them and other requirements that they need to meet. But the bottom line is, before they played that first game of the season against Colorado on December 8th, they hadn't, as a group, been up and down the floor all but 2 times or so.
Think about that. So when they played Colorado, he told us today that was only the 3rd time that they went full speed 5-on-5 up and down a 94-foot court over a 2-week period, maybe almost a 3-week period. So Tennessee, to me, I know their offensive numbers have not been great, but they are probably a month behind everyone else who's already a month behind where we'd normally be. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think there's another way to look at it in addition to that is you've played already Colorado, you played Cincinnati, and you're playing App now. You have missed, and this applies to everybody out there, you have missed those first 2 exhibition games. You've missed a scrimmage or 2. You've missed all those tune-ups that would otherwise get you to December 15th.
Well, and then that missed time has affected Keon Johnson and Springer more than anyone. As good as they are, there's a lot to absorb in that Tennessee system. Now, they're coming on quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of them doesn't start at some point this year.
Bailey with the jumper.
Tennessee pushing that ball. That's one way to get out of your offensive slump is to score ahead of the defense. Rick Barnes doing a good job of pushing his guys down there each night. Think about Tennessee's defense. I'm looking at them in 2 games. It's 2 quality games, like you said, Cincinnati and Colorado. They're only allowing Tennessee 86 points per 100 possessions. That number is going to go even lower tonight. Juggernaut defensively.
What's going on? We're going to see you at the half in just a few minutes. Dory Nocum, Matt Stinchcomb, Roman Harper. We'll show you a couple of other SEC games going on. Auburn playing right now, A&M playing right now. The latest on Florida's Keontae Johnson. College football playoff rankings out, too. We're going to dive in a little bit.
Yeah, Bonnie, how about the Aggies hanging on tight at number 5?
Still at 5. No change in the top 5.
Well, the best news of the day and really of the year is focused on that Florida basketball program, and this was the release today, the Florida update on Keontae Johnson from Nika and Maricus Johnson. His parents, he's in stable condition, breathing on his own, speaking with his parents and his doctors at UF Health. They transferred him there from Tallahassee. He even FaceTimed the team. They feel so much love and support from everyone and beyond grateful for the care and attention that Keontae has received throughout these past several days. Jimmy, I don't know if I've seen anything better than that release right there.
That's the best news we've had in all of college basketball this year, and that's the real deal there. That's Tennessee in their pregame today, specifically praying for the healing of Keontae Johnson. That has gone on all across not only the SEC, Tom, but college basketball as a whole. And Mike White texted me this morning and said, man, the prayers are working, keep them coming. He's making a lot of progress, and my goodness, that is the best news that any of us have had in a long, long time.
Indeed, Florida's next game had been postponed, and it remains to be seen. I think that was against North Florida. What time or when the Gators, as a squad, return to the floor? Pons trying to save it. Clock riding down at 1, and that one was halfway home for Springer, but wouldn't go through. App has been held to just 17% shooting in this half by Tennessee. And that number will get lower. Break led by Keon Johnson. His freshman classmate Springer gets cut off. Pons at the adapter.
I don't think App State's had a clean look yet in this ballgame. Everything is challenged.
Beautiful turnaround.
Yeah, just jump up and make a play over you is what Eve Pons could do. And a really good job of Tennessee on the post feed to stay off of Eve Pons and allow him to operate. Paint touch, kick, drive again.
This Kobe comes out of there with it. They are swarming. Lob. And left all alone is Anisicki. Padding those rebounding stats. He led the nation in that, and he's able to get one up and in.
Anisicki is a rhinoceros, and I mean that in a complimentary way. Just a mean, tough, big-bodied guy, ferocious on the glass, and especially on the offensive end. I believe all of his rebounds this year so far have been on that offensive glass.
More college basketball tonight. Nate Oates' squad will take the floor against Furman. 9 o'clock Eastern, or as soon as we finish here on Rocky Top. And as always, available on the app. There's some coaching.
Tom, we might be seeing a record here tonight for Rick Barnes.
Indeed.
The fewest points he's ever allowed in a half as a head coach was against Lenore Ryan when they allowed 11. And App State has 9 right now. They're going to have to work to get there.
That was since he's been at Tennessee. Another free throw coming. So we learned that thing that goes inside of 45 is an adapter. And I think we could go ahead.
Well, the source that I got it from is not the most trustworthy.
It's questionable. I agree. But I look at this Tennessee team as a bunch of ADAPTERs. Got guys that can go different positions, different strengths. Rebounded by Almonacci. And an open floor foul trying to get back on Keon Johnson. I was told we had to spell things going here forward here, Jimmy.
Well, if you want to keep the audience involved, absolutely. I look at Tennessee. I sit in the open. They are SEC champion, Elite Eight good right now on the defensive end. And I don't think that's going to change because Rick's not going to let his guys off the hook. And offensively, they are a work in progress, like a lot of teams are right now. And I see them as a hard driving, get the ball around the rim, pound you on the glass, get to the free throw line team, and make just enough threes. Just enough threes to keep all that other stuff I talked about the primary part of your offense.
Do they have enough inside? The measuring stick you're talking about being an Elite Eight Final Four caliber.
Yes, and because they do have a post presence, and you've heard me say before, if you don't have a post presence, your team is a fraud. And Folke gives them a post presence, and Epons, although he's only 6'6", gives you a post presence, and the Anasiki kid does, especially as a rebounder and a defender. So I think there's enough there. And this is not a Tennessee team that needs to make 8 or 9 threes a game. They need to make their 5 or 6 and continue to pound away at the power part of the floor, which is painted orange in Thompson Bowling Arena.
Pons off the mark. By the way, give you something to look forward to in the second half. Leaking ahead, and the bucket goes, and a quick timeout for Tennessee. We'll hear from John Fulkerson. He'll be the arbiter of whether or not Rick Barnes is funny and whether or not he misses his long hair. We'll also talk a little bit about where Kentucky is right now and where they need to get to. And we've got an incredible Rick Barnes recruiting story about a recruit that he stole from Bobby Cremins at Appalachian State back in the day. But that's all in the second half. Now we'll review the promo. This is promo 2, Jimmy. It's our final Saturday college football lineup for the regular season right here on the SEC Network and the ESPN app. The Georgia Vandy game is gone, so we're left with 2 at 3:30. Ole Miss, LSU on the network. Missouri and Mississippi State with the Pirate at 3:30. That's on the SEC alternate channel as of now. And to find the SEC Network alternate channel in your area, go to secnetwork.com.
I've been asked on a lot of radio shows who's the best team in the SEC right now, basketball-wise. After Tennessee, it has to be Missouri. I mean, when you win hard games like they've done against Oregon and Illinois and how they've done it, Hanzo's team, very similar to Rick Barnes' team in terms of how they play the game, what they value. They get the ball to the power part of the floor. They defend well without fouling. They make a lot of free throws. Your alma mater is not going to go away. Talking about Missouri. Now, that's a real team.
It's interesting. They picked up the pace this season. Hanzo has allowed his seniors to dial up and accelerate the pace while still keeping his core principles in defense and rebound. A huge win against Illinois for bragging rights on Saturday night. Half has made just 4 of 21. Make it 5 of 22. Vescovi fighting for it. We've got 2.1 left on the clock. Let's see if Tennessee was able to work on some end-of-clock situations in this young season.
App State has a diamond press. Looks like they're going to throw it on here right now. Just a 1-2-1-1. Normally they drop back to a zone. That won't come into play right here. Try to keep the ball in front of you if you're in black right now.
Pons gives it up, gave it right back to App.
Why did he throw it to him? Rick Barnes asking the same thing. We've worn white for the first 20 minutes. Why would you throw it to a guy wearing a black uniform? But so far it's been all VOLS.
Let's go to Dari.
All righty, gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll kick it back out your way in just a little bit. Good to have you with us. I got a couple of football mates with me here as well. The newest college football playoff rankings are out. Of course, we're 5 days away from having the most important college football playoff rankings. But we'll get into what we see. But I will tell you this, the top 5 is unchanged. Meanwhile, basketball going on at Auburn Arena, the first of 3 home games in a 7-day span for Bruce Pearl's Tigers. And look out. Wow, that is J.T. Thor, aptly named. Throws down the dunk. A little later, Justin Powell, your freshman of the week. 9 points for him in the first half.
That's
20.
Me,
That's you?
That's me.
You're Justin Powell, Roman
Good, I get to be Thor then.
And Stinch is Thor. Now we've got that all sorted out. Who's Carl Nicholas? Because Texas Southern has a 1-point lead at the break, and they've shot 58% from the floor. Oh, my goodness. News we needed to hear, folks. Florida basketball star Keontae Johnson listed in stable condition. Now, breathing on his own. Even FaceTimed his teammates on Tuesday. That word coming down from his parents earlier in the day. Johnson collapsed on the court Saturday at Florida State, was rushed to a hospital in Tallahassee. He's since been moved to a hospital in Gainesville. That happened on Monday. We'll keep you posted as his status changes. Florida was originally supposed to play, by the way, on Wednesday. That game is not going to happen. Their next game will be right here on the SEC Network against FAU on Saturday. But you look at notable games throughout the week around the SEC. That includes Kentucky. They are 1-4, and they play UCLA in Cleveland on Saturday. All right, it is all Volunteers, 36-13 over App State. Brand new college football playoff rankings. The only change from last week comes at 6. Florida was 6. Of course, they lost to LSU. Iowa State out of the Big 12 moves up. Florida, wait till you see where they really are. Chairman Gary Barta on a relative lack of change.
12 of the 25 teams ranked did not play, and in the top 6, 5 of those teams didn't play. So when it comes to Ohio State and Texas A&M, there was some discussion in that 1 through 5, but really not a lot of discussion of moving anybody. When it comes to Cincinnati, the committee has shown appreciation for Cincinnati from the beginning. We haven't had a chance to watch them play since November 21st, and the teams around them, the teams ahead of them, have played 2 or 3 games that we've been able to evaluate. And one of the things that holds Cincinnati back, again, a great team, they don't have a win against a top 25. So the teams, Iowa State was idle, Cincinnati was idle, a lot of teams in that top 10 that didn't play this week, which created some challenges in evaluation, but not a lot of movement.
All right, now, Stinch and Harper with me here. I said, wait till you hear where Florida is. Florida, home loss to what was a 3-win LSU, dropped 1 spot. They are at 7. Stinch, what's your initial take on what these rankings look like now?
Well, first of all, I'm curious what Chairman Barta was talking about when he said 5 of the top 6 didn't play, because that's not necessarily accurate. Maybe 5 of the current top 6.
Yeah.
Because Alabama played a ball game.
And
Pretty sure Florida played that ball game. Now, they may not have liked to have played that ball game given the outcome, but the Southeastern Conference continued to play football. There was no insulation of top teams, and we've seen some fallout here because of it. Not much fallout, right?
No.
Florida dropping that game. I would have thought that would have dropped them a little bit further, given the fact that LSU was a 3-win football team. but it's interesting.
I wonder if that's why they didn't drop Florida that much, because of the fallout about the ACC protecting Clemson and Notre Dame. So now you lost, but you did go out and play, so we're not going to.
Yeah, I just we just need to be more consistent. Either we're going to penalize people for playing or not playing, or we're going to allow them to go out there and play. I feel bad for a team like Cincinnati, who continues to get stepped over, moved out the way, and everything else. And I thought Cincinnati's had a great season. I think that they deserve to be in this conversation more. I know they have been in the whole COVID restriction. One was their fault. Another week it was not their fault. But this is a team that continues to get pushed, moved out the way, and we're going to talk about you every week, though, whenever we bring out the rankings, though, and say how we respect you and all the things that we appreciate that you're doing for us.
Yeah, it's interesting because what came up about Cincinnati was the timing of when they last played.
Yeah.
But they played 8 ball games, and yet we're looking at other teams, like in Ohio State. There's consideration of other teams that have played far fewer football games. The timing in which those games have played, I'm not sure I fully understand why that even happened.
Yeah, and remember, Cincinnati was supposed to play at a top 25 team this week at Tulsa. That game got wiped away. Now they play Tulsa in Cincinnati for a conference championship on Saturday. At least that's the plan. Now your All-State playoff predictor says Alabama's a virtual lock. Ohio State, in all likelihood as well, will be in the playoff. Next 2 highest percentages, both those ACC teams. Maybe with the right result in Charlotte for them, which would likely be a close Clemson win, they both get in. But A&M still in the picture. What do they call John Fulkerson, Roman?
Incredible Fall!
Yes! Don't forget, when we are finished in Knoxville, we'll head to Tuscaloosa. John Petty Jr. and the Crimson Tide. 4 Bama players average better than 11 a game. He is certainly one of them. They play Furman, a tricky team with a lot of experience. All right, Kyle Trask and Nick Saban both joining Marty and McGee coming up Wednesday, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, the SEC title game will be a big-time focus between those guys. Texas A&M taking on Southeastern Louisiana. 3 ball, good. Savion Flagg, who started 3 for 3 from the floor. A&M up 11. Here goes Quentin Jackson. Little alley-oop. A&M looking to get to 4-1, and they're halfway home. 31-19 leaders at this point. The Flying Frenchman, they call it, Yves Pons. Preseason all-conference. They're up 23. Second half coming.
Moments away from the second half. Tom Hart and Jimmy Dykes. Let's look at some first half highlights, Jimmy.
Well, Tennessee had 8 steals, Tom, in the first 20 minutes. And what Tennessee can do to you is they can take away your stuff. They can take away your set, your go-to, your comfort zone. And now you have to make some basketball plays against them. I talked about that. Tennessee is really good at their gap help with strong hands, attacking the ball, pressuring the ball. Right now, everything's working Tennessee's way defensively. App State has not shown the ability to have a guy that can go by and make a play, and as a result, it's a 36-13 game. Tennessee is shooting a very good percentage from the floor. The three-point shooting for Tennessee continues to be a question mark / concern. Only 2 out of 11 so far in this game, but they've been a pretty clean offense. Only turned over 5 times. They're getting the ball in the paint. Tennessee has not gotten to the free throw line in this ball game so far, which is unusual for the Volunteers.
Unusual, but they're shooting 47% from the floor, much higher from 2 than they normally do. And their defense has been absolutely swarming.
Yeah, they're suffocating. And it goes down to that 8th and 9th guy. And they can put their nose on the ball. They can keep their feet in front of your feet. And Yves Pons, 35 in white, is the best all-around overall defender in all of college basketball. He fixes more mistakes over a 40-minute game than anybody I've seen this year.
They'll bring the big up for the screen. Fulkerson tries to help out. Shot clock at 3, contested 3. And it goes home. Maybe that's what App needs to get going.
Tennessee after Mako this year, they get that thing out of the net with the first big guy and go. It was really good backside of the floor, back screen for Bailey, freed up.
Jimmy, you're talking about how hard Tennessee plays defense, and you saw Rick Barnes being a motivator going into the locker room at the half. Fulkerson with the rejection. Here's Vescovi to push. I just see so much competition for minutes on the floor for this entire Tennessee team. Vescovi with his first three.
That is the only
you can't
way.
let up.
No, Tom, that's the only way you get better. And I talked about it in the first half. If you're a guy that's going to fight the system and you don't want to prove in practice that you can be trusted to play in a game, you're just going to sit and watch. You're going to watch a really good Tennessee team this year. You have a really good seat.
You have a great seat.
Yeah, you have a great seat. But against Tennessee, they put you in a crowd defensively, Tom, so well. You can't make a play through that crowd. You have to get Tennessee in a crowd, kick the ball out, and get yourself in an open spot. And Tennessee defensively, they are kind of a clinic. When you just go back and grade their film, they're so good at talking and sliding and being on the white line. They don't switch out of habit or out of comfort. They do it only when it's necessary. They're the real deal now defensively.
Offensive board, Bailey. Couldn't find the rim on his turnaround. Pons, once again, cleaning it up. Pons in the paint. Another offensive rebound.
App State's just getting outworked on this possession. It's one thing to be behind 41-16, but the effort should never drop off if you're App State. And I talked about Dustin Kearns. I think he's a heck of a coach. He's trying to instill a discipline and a fight and a tenacity in his club. And I think he's probably disappointed in those areas tonight. The ball's not going in. I get that. But they have also been outworked some, and that is not what this guy's about. Not at all. To his core now, this is a tough, competitive dude that's going to build it the right way in my former hometown of Boone, North Carolina. I told you I coached there, right?
You can call it a hometown? You were there for how many months?
About 11.
11.
It was my hometown for 11 months.
Did you receive mail there?
Only from my parents. My parents wrote me once a week when I was coaching there. It snowed 2 feet. It snowed 2 feet one time. I went home from a game in the old Broomkirk gym. And when I got home, I could not open my front door. There was literally 2 feet of snow had fallen during the course of a 2-hour game. I am not exaggerating. Boone, North Carolina. That's my team right there. Hey, look at this.
All right, hold on. Stacia did her homework. Our fantastic producers. That's what I'm talking about. Let's read about Jimmy Dykes. 25-year-old bachelor. That was before you were named one of People's top 50 bachelors.
Oh, my gosh. I was concentrating on the Dykes was an honor graduate from Arkansas, and that's what you guys pull out of the bio.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I haven't seen that since whatever year that was, 86, 87 season, I guess, at App State.
Nice finish by Springers. It was fantastic. Our producer, Stacia, said, I've got the photo, but it's a little bit grainy. We're going to try to clean it up. I said, no. No, leave it as is. The newspaper clippings would be yellowed. Vescovi extending the defense, picks up his third. Who was the head coach there when you were an assistant?
Tom Apke, just a phenomenal guy. Ralph Patterson, Floyd Kerr were the assistants. We just had a great year, not in terms of wins and losses. I told you earlier, I think we were 5-24 that year, first year. And we literally played a game one night, and our post player, 5 times in the first half, Tom, we set a back screen for him and freed him up for a layup at the rim, and he missed all 5. So we're circled up going into the locker room. And, Coach, I just want you to know, I'm really sorry about missing those layups. Well, we were too. We were sorry about it too. Oh man, great
between the leg save and then Pons with the block, and they're going to get him perhaps for the body. But we got Jaden Springer over there turning tables over.
We were a program that stood for honest truth
and communication.
Yeah, this is what I talked about earlier. That these are
and communication.
Yeah, this is what I talked about earlier. That these are 5-star guys, Johnson and Springer, that come in with a almost a walk-on mentality. Just what do I have to do to play in the game? They fight, and they're tough. They can bully you with the ball. Defensively, these two kids, they stick their nose on your numbers, and they say you are not getting by me. Boy, there's a lot of good things happen with guys like that coming off the bench.
Donovan Gregory knocks down both free throws, limited due to injuries last year. App's been to the line 11 times. Tennessee not yet. Here's a look at Tennessee's fantastic recruiting class. Springer and Johnson, along with Corey Walker Jr. Fulkerson rolls it home. You know, when this staff first got there, Rob Lanier was on the staff at the time, Rick Barnes, they didn't get five-star guys. And talking with Coach Barnes, it was, well, these aren't the type of guys that we want to recruit right now. He wanted to get his type of player in there. And as you mentioned, those Grant Williams and Admiral Schofields and like, they've turned it over now where five stars are coming in. And old reliable stick, John Fulkerson, doing the job in the paint for UT. We've got a fun visit with John Fulkerson coming up out of the next break. We'll learn about his best ever Christmas gift, but he's the gift that keeps on giving for this Tennessee program, Jimmy.
Tom, the high release point of Tennessee post players is a constant in this program. Freeze it right there. But look at that right there. That's as high of a release that John Fulkerson can shoot a basketball, and it's worked on day after day after day after day in that Rick Barnes system. He started it back in his days, probably even back at Clemson, but certainly at Texas. Rick Barnes has taught that all the way through. Go back and just picture Grant Williams shooting that same shot when he was a Tennessee Volunteer. And they work on it with a heavy ball, but it's that extended arm, straightened arm, popping it with a wrist release that it's almost an unblockable shot. And it's very well done by Fulton.
And to put that in perspective, if you believe the numbers, that was 6'9" versus 6'9".
Yeah.
But Fulke didn't finish at 6'9" with that beautiful follow through. App having a more successful second half. Scored
Ball
13
Nation.
In the first.
Tom, Ball Nation is active and alive on that Ball Twitter takeover tonight. Glancing at it every now and then. They've got some strong, good opinions of their team, of me, of you. There's a lot going on there right now, that Tennessee basketball account.
I mean, I lived in Knoxville for 5 years, so I hope they don't say anything too bad about me.
Did you get mail?
Yeah, sure did. I even opened some of them. James off the mark.
App State out of the Sun Belt. Little Rock, my friend Darrell Walker, who I played with at Arkansas, the head coach of Little Rock, is favored, but App State has not shown it tonight. I know they're getting pounded 47-20, but they will be a tough out in their league because they can win games ugly in terms of their defense, getting to the free throw line, different things. It just, they've been out-athleted tonight at about every shot. Good gracious, what a miss.
Everybody's trying to dunk it. James was left short, and then Johnson. By the way, speaking of Appalachian State, back in the day, Rick Barnes stole a recruit from the legendary Bobby Cremins when he was there. Rick was an assistant at George Mason and recruiting a young man by the name of Andy Bolton, and they took him to Washington, D.C. as part of their visit, obviously with Mason being right there, and they took him to the Capitol, and they slid the guy a 20, and he said, "Oh, I've heard of you. You're Andy Bolton, aren't you?" And the kid was over the moon, and then they took him in, and to the room where the president does a press conference, and they allowed him to get behind the dais. So this would have been 78, 79, if I'm not. Mistaken? And the guy who got him in, the security guard, goes, "You just made history, son." "Oh, yeah, what's that?" He goes, "You're the first person to ever stand behind that dais in tennis shoes." And then lo and behold, and didn't they present him with a flag? Wasn't that part of the story?
They did. And the whole time I'm thinking, surely our national security has escalated since back then. Like, just anyone can walk in and get behind the presser and start taking our pictures. And it's a great story. And Rick Barnes loves to tell stories now.
Yeah, presented him with the flag, took him to the ABC affiliate there, where Tim Brandt was the anchor. They wowed him on TV, and then they didn't have the heart to tell Andy Bolton the cameras weren't even working. He wasn't on television. And then finally, the day he was going to sign, Bobby Cremins came in the room. He was on the phone with the George Mason staff. They said, "Don't hang up the phone, just put it on the side." And Bobby Cremins says, "What am I hearing about George Mason? Why would you go to George Mason over App?" "The flag, Coach. It's all about the flag." Rick Barnes and company. Yeah. Andy Bolton turned out to be a great player, one of the best in the decade at George Mason. Yeah, averaged 17 his freshman year. I don't know if he does a podcast or Zoom or whatever you want. Rick Barnes in the offseason should have story time with Rick. I would subscribe to that podcast in a heartbeat.
He and I talked about it one time, doing a podcast. Not so sure we're going to tell just kind of crazy stories, but he and I are going to get together on that thing next time we go to eat barbecue together at Dead End Barbecue in Knoxville. That's one of the things I'm going to bring up to him again. It's a phenomenal guy with phenomenal, uncommon life balance is what Rick Barnes has. And
all right, I got the title.
He competes.
Basketball and burn ends. There's the title of your podcast.
You want to produce in the off-season? You got time to produce it for us?
No, nobody wants to be producing anything. C.J. Huntley with the three-point play.
We talked about these Tennessee freshmen tonight. There's some freshmen in this league that really caught my eye in the SEC. Cameron Thomas, who you saw yesterday at LSU, he may lead the league in scoring before it's all said and done. He can score from everywhere. Big wing. Justin Powell from Auburn. Kid that Bruce Pearl got out of the state of Kentucky, just a knockdown shooter right now, shooting over 50% from three.
And these are guys that not necessarily, Cam Thomas everybody expected, but they were higher ranked recruits in the season coming in than these two guys who have impressed you early.
Yeah, they have. And Mosley Moody is putting up really good numbers, not against great competition yet. I don't know how good Arkansas is. I think they're really good. They haven't played anyone outside of Bud Walton, outside of a Power 5 conference. Yet they still lack, but those three guys are producing numbers. Tom, the freshman class overall across the country is as good as maybe we've had in the last 10 years. Talk about guys like Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State, Evan Mobley at Southern Cal. Jalen Suggs at Gonzaga, I think, is the best point guard we have in all of college ball. He's just a freshman. Scotty Barnes at Florida State. Like this, the list goes on and on. Like the next 8, 9 guys, the first 8 or 9 guys taken in the next draft, they may very well all be out of this freshman class. It is terrific.
guess the surprising part with so many stops and starts and interruptions is that those freshmen have been able to adapt here early in the season.
Well, they
Bailey
have.
turns the corner.
Yeah, it's the talent and really the big wings that are in this 2020 freshman class. They're very impressive. The Mobley kid's a 7-footer, but there's just a lot of those 6'6" to 6'9" wings that thrive in the NBA.
SEC certainly has talent to replace. 12 players gone in the 2020 NBA draft, 6 in the first round. Udo Splavčić at the free throw line. Excuse me? Yep. 7-footer. Knocks the first one down. Marty McGee coming your way tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. I saw the Marty party was in Tigertown, Clemson, where Rick Barnes was a former head coach for a while. You know, Rick Barnes used to host a pregame radio show before Clemson football games. It was a tailgating show. They'd be in a golf cart, and they'd go parking lot to parking lot. Try some of your food, whatever you brought with them. They'd put you on the radio for 2 minutes, and they'd scoot over to the next lot.
I know that Knoxville community, they love their head coach, and he's a big-time coach, but there's nothing big-time about Rick Barnes. He takes the time to visit with everyone. Just a good dude, man, is what he is. App State has not been able to do that much at all tonight. Get that ball around the rim and finish.
And they cut it to 25.
Tom, watching Tennessee tonight, just thinking about going forward, like, you have to be able to move the help defense of Tennessee. It is so locked in. It's always on the right spot. They cover that white line. And if you can't move Tennessee's help defense, you're going to struggle scoring all season long against these guys.
That was a tough shot for the freshman Springer. Took it himself. He's into double figures, and he rolled right over the top of the 220-pound James Lewis.
He's got fight in him. Like
here we go. Victor Bailey, mom and Olympian dad, a fantastic football player at the Omni Turf back at Mizzou back in the day.
What I like about Springer, I think I said in the first half, he's a bully going to the basket, getting to the paint. He's got a nastiness about him that it's really hard to find. It's easy to identify on the recruiting trail. And Rick Barnes has a really good one at number 11 and white at the top of the screen with the ball.
Splavčić with the block, and now he's looking for a dime. Here's Bailey. Wow, what a feed. Now, Fulkerson wasn't able to knock that one down, but here's what we know about John Fulkerson. He normally has a clean truck. That story after this. Springer in the paint. Bailey, above the rim. Folky is a natural nickname for you. I mean, that's obvious, right? What's the second best nickname for John Fulkerson?
In high school, they used to call me Stick, and some people did call me Stick.
What do you miss most about the long hair?
Oh man, I don't know if anything. It was just a phase, so it was a good phase, but I'm glad it's gone.
Rick Barnes, funny or not funny?
Definitely funny. Definitely funny.
Best Christmas gift you've ever given or received?
Oh man, that's hard. I get a couple of years ago. I got this is probably not my favorite, but just one that I really liked and can remember. I got unlimited car washes for my car.
That's perfect. That's perfect. All right. Given that this year's so different and we've had to find new activities, what's the best quarantine activity that you've discovered since the spring?
I guess just, getting a lot more sleep, a lot more movies, TV shows, video games. So just the normal.
Jimmy, I got to be honest. That's a fantastic Christmas gift. Unlimited car washes?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just thinking, my wife's not watching right now. She went to pick up our daughter at gymnastics. I'm getting that tomorrow for her. She will love me like there's no tomorrow. Thank you,
Bailey. Bailey's got 13 right now.
Am I wrong?
It's fantastic. No, you're not wrong at all. They did a great job, by the way. The Tennessee video squad did a video earlier this season that was part of the debut of Tennessee's new uniforms. I think they look fantastic, by the way. They went to Knoxville Art. They went to the local museum, and they shot it in the form and even used the music from when Ferris Bueller and his buddies went to the museum and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and it ended with Folky staring longingly and lovingly at the new jersey hanging in the museum, just as Ferris's buddy did, staring at Monet's water lilies.
Folky he's a long, lanky, hard-playing athlete is what he is. Dude can jump. He's got good hands. He doesn't defer to anyone on this team. I said in the first half, Folky has to be Folky. If Tennessee's going to be a legitimate SEC title contender, he has to continue to be who he is. And Tennessee has moved the ball really well tonight. A low turnover game. They find the third and fourth side of the floor really well. Tennessee's last defensive possession, Tom, I'm telling you, it was as good as you could hope for. They denied into a switch. They hard hedged. They attacked the gaps really well. All five guys played as one. It's a concert at times watching this Tennessee team defensively.
There's Jaden Springer inside. He's got a dozen coming off of an 11-point performance in the second game of the season against Cincinnati. Knocked away by Fulkerson with the denial, and Tennessee will key the break with Bailey.
Well, the number of steals in this ball game, I think Tennessee's up to 11 or 12 steals, but I bet they're tracking 30, 35, 40 touches of the ball in terms of the deflections, just total disruption of App State's offense tonight.
Long rebound. Vescovi fights for it.
Tennessee 4 out of 15 from the three-point line in this ball game, 26, 27%. And they're not going to be a high-volume three-point shooting team. And I think if that number gets to where they're making 5 or 6 a game, that's enough. If they're only going to take 16 or 17, because that's Tennessee's offense is about balance. It's about inside, around the rim, and getting to the line.
By the way, there's a big women's game of local importance going on the West Coast tonight. Stanford's Tara Vanderveer has a chance to pass Pat Summitt for the all-time Division I wins record. That's on ESPN2. Stanford is playing Pacific. She tied the record with a blowout win over Cal over the weekend. Jaden Springer to the free throw line.
Tom, I love my time with Pat Summitt probably, it may have been 15 years ago or so. We were both covering the WNBA playoffs. We spent a week together, bouncing back and forth between the two cities. And, man, we talked ball after ball after ball. And just, you could tell how she talked about basketball, the tone that she used, how hard-nosed and tough she was. And I really had a very close, good relationship with Pat Summitt. I would go there to do men's games and go to her house to see her. And she saw the game as well as anyone has ever seen it. Tara right there with her, getting ready to pass her the number of wins. But that lady on the left now, she set the bar in women's college basketball. Dearly missed by many.
Indeed. It goes without saying. By the way, she went head-to-head with Vanderveer 29 times. Wouldn't surprise you to know that Pat Summitt owned that rivalry head-to-head 22-7. I called one of the games. It was right before Christmas, maybe December 22nd or 23rd. This was years ago. And Shauna Zolman hit a shot from mid-court to win it for Tennessee at the buzzer. What's this? There's a women's basketball tie-in with this Tennessee team. E.J. Anosicki, of course, his sister Nikki. National championship with Pat Summitt 2006.
Yeah,
straight ahead three.
Maybe the best offensive possession by Tennessee in this game. They set hard physical screens. They had scoring cuts that didn't result in a basket, and finally ended up with a three in the middle of the floor. That was really good offense by Rick's club.
Vescovi with the rebound. Devontae Gaines getting some run. First of the season. Number 0 in white. Bulky up and under again.
He's getting back to his right shoulder, left paw extended. And his feet, Tom, I talked about his feet always are in the right position. He's not trying to find his feet with his head out in front of the game and his feet trying to catch up. His feet for a post player are the timing is tremendous.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because when I talked to him today, I asked him about getting in perfect post position. It's almost, and we did not play the whole interview thing. So just to peel the curtain back. Yeah, we do. We certainly do. But he did say, he goes, well, it all starts with the feet.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Especially for those inside guys playing in a crowd. And you catch the basketball with your hands, but you score the basketball with your feet as Anosicki goes to work. This guy is a moose. He's going to be
you called him a rhino in the first half. Now he's a moose?
He's a combo of both, because I really like his game for what Tennessee needs. They need another physical body on the inside if Bulky gets in foul trouble, and they just have to have a body blow type game around the rim. 55 is built to have a body blow type game.
Scobie with the reach in. E.J. Anosicki at 6'7", taking it off the window. WINDOW.
Car wash.
Time now to take a look at our All-State Protection Spotlight in this Tennessee defense.
Yeah, they play with hot hands, and they stay in the stance. They get their nose on the ball. They can erase mistakes, especially 35 and White, who's the best all-around defender in the college game. But they all do it. I talked about Tennessee's depth defensively. It is phenomenal and uncommon and unique that guy after guy comes in with those big physical bodies and strong hands and just chew you up, holding App State to 25% shooting in this ball game, Tom. And that's a tough night. That's a rough night for Yosef and the folks up in Boone.
It's easier to score on Tennessee's defense than to cop a PS5 for Christmas.
A what?
25 PS5, PlayStation 5. If you got a hookup, let me know.
No, I'm googling closest car washes.
That'll be a whole lot easier. Walmart denied me 4 different times today. Turnover. After trying to chase down the loose ball, we got under 6 to go. Where will Tennessee need to be, Jimmy, offensively, for a team that was picked to win the Southeastern Conference regular season to reach that goal?
Well, I think, again, it's who they are offensively that's not going to change, which is why I buy them right now as the favorite to win the SEC. Because, Tom, their style of play is going to hold up in Knoxville or any other city in the SEC or when we get to the SEC tournament. Because they're defensive, tough-minded, they're going to score off their defense, get out in transition some, they're going to get to the free throw line, although they have not done that tonight. And they're going to score 8 feet and in. That's who they are. And if they make just enough threes, we've seen Kentucky win the SEC title before, averaging 4.5 to 5 made threes a game. And I think this Tennessee team is going to be right in that wheelhouse.
Into the paint, off the mark, is Keon Johnson. Well, speaking of Kentucky, they got a long way to go. You and I saw them before the season started, and I think it's fair to say that expectations were higher than what they've accomplished. And here's the danger zone. Kentucky is just 1-4. They've got UCLA, ranked Louisville, and ranked Texas left on the non-conference schedule. Jimmy, they're going to have to, if that plays out like it may, they're going to have to win 15 or 16 SEC games to make it to the NCAA tournament. Just from wins, just from a win total perspective.
No, yeah. You're exactly right. And where the comeback they had against Notre Dame in the second half gives Big Blue Nation a lot of hope going forward. But now we're going to have to see if there's follow-through and carryover into a full 40-minute game. Because for 20 minutes, Kentucky looked brutally bad. And then they came back and their pressure defense, extended defense, playing through Olivier Sarr, it almost won them the game. But that schedule right there is nothing to mess around with. And Cal continuing to figure out who his point guard is. He doesn't have a true point guard on that lineup right now. So it's going to be a combination of Mintz and Askew. Terrence Clark got the ball in his hands a lot some, but that's an interesting follow right now. And how they look against UCLA on Saturday, I think, will be huge. A huge story right now in college ball.
Gaines, what a feed to Anasicki.
Yeah.
And a reach-in foul for Kendall Lewis will be his 4th. If Devontae Gaines shows a willingness to do that and ability, he'll get more playing time from Rick Barnes that hadn't come before tonight.
No, and it's a truth program. And you don't just get to play for Tennessee because you're up 30. You get to play for Tennessee because you proved in practice we can trust you to play. And Big Ticket will figure that out.
4 teams, 2 semifinals. New Year's Day, the College Football Playoff lives on ESPN.
Rose Bowl and Allstate Sugar Bowl on January 1st. But first, we got to crown an SEC champion. And so this weekend, SEC Nation will get your day started 10 a.m. from right here in Atlanta, presented by Dr. Pepper. They'll be back at 6:30 to get you set for the game. And then SEC football final with Daria and the guys, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoor, after the game about 11:15 or a little bit later. And, of course, as always, available streaming live on the app. Well, you and I got hoops Saturday night.
A good one. Cincinnati at undefeated Georgia. Look forward to talking to Tom Crean tomorrow and kind of getting up to speed on where his team is. And they're kind of sitting there, haven't played the greatest of schedule, but haven't lost yet. Arkansas, same way. Ole Miss.
I think you'll like what Tamani Kamara has blossomed into for Georgia. Just incredibly athletic. He does a lot of things for him on the offensive end and the open floor as well.
You know, Wheeler can kind of take the ball anywhere he wants to take it any time. I'm having fun with this ball Twitter takeover tonight, by the way.
All right.
Here's a good one. Blonde Vescovi is Boss Vescovi. You agree or disagree with that one?
I agree. Disagree with it.
No, it's a great look on him.
Drew Pember is on the floor now for Tennessee. And a Sicky fighting for it. And they get big 55 for the foul. He comes from a family of ballers. Mentioned his sister Nikki. Women's Player of the Year. She's 6'4". They weren't done. Go ahead.
I just looked at you on Zoom. Speaking of Cincinnati playing at Georgia, you know, the Cincinnati team, they just played Tennessee. And John Brand, the head coach, said that he has seen 2 great defensive teams in his career as a head coach. One of them was Texas Tech that made it all the way to the national championship game. And he said potentially this Tennessee team is right there with him. And that's why that's it right there. Well done.
You and I saw Chris Beard's Texas Tech team that year. They were legit at every position, and they played team defense.
Yes, they had the same defensive depth that I'm talking about tonight for Tennessee. There's no drop-off, or you don't get to step on the floor. And that's why Tennessee, they don't have to be great offensively this year. They're going to be able to win games, close games, rock fight games, whatever. But I think offensively they're going to be fine because they are so good at getting the ball inside. If we get another post touch by our guy Plavsic, but that's Rick Barnes' system. They get the ball to the paint, they get you into long closeouts, and they play off of it from there. And they're going to shoot the ball better the more they get into game groove right now. This is a team that's missed as much time as anybody in college basketball, and I think the shooting has been affected by it.
Adrian Delph, the reigning Sun Belt Conference Player of the Week, picks up the foul, his first. Gregory will take a seat. Delph will head to the bench.
That's a tough night for App State. They make the drive back up to Boone over the mountains. Probably about a 3.5-hour drive. And team out of the Sun Belt that they believe in defense. They came in only allowing about 66 points a game against their 2 best opponents, Charlotte and Bowling Green. But Dustin's again, I like everything about it. They're getting thumped tonight by a really good team. That's an App State program. You go back to their head coaches over the years. Buzz Peterson was the head coach at App State at one time. Bobby Crimmins was the head coach at one time. How about Press Maravich? Was a head coach at App State at one time. And I was surprised to learn how Press got his name Press. Do you know that story?
No, I'd love to hear it. Then I'm going to tell you how Houston Fancher got his name, but go ahead.
Okay. You would think Press Maravich got his name Press because he pressed as a head coach. No. He sold the Pittsburgh Press newspaper as a young kid, and people started calling him Press. Huh. I thought I'd get a better response than that. I thought it was a heck of a story.
It's a fantastic story.
That's it.
Your researcher deserves a raise. I thought maybe I'm just thinking about all the Sentinels I've met, or Tribunes, or Constitutions, and wondering if they picked up theirs the same way. Up next, by the way, for App, they've got Division III Greensboro College, then NAIA Columbia International. And this is the inconsistency of the schedule that they've had to do on the fly this season. Because then they've got Auburn 3 days before Christmas. And so it's really hard, I would imagine, as a head coach to get a good barometer on where your team is when you're playing NAIA schools. And then you turn around, you got to face Bruce Pearl's team. Nice lob and finish by Olivier Kamwa.
Yeah, it's hard to get a real feel for you because you're either overvaluing your guys or undervaluing based upon the competition. This has been all about Tennessee tonight, and this is what good teams do. If you're good enough to beat a team by 35, 40 points, that's what you go out and do. And Tennessee defensively has never let up. It's been all gas, no brakes on this end of the floor. And Rick Barnes and his guys, that staff, you and I have sat with them before in film sessions.
Yep.
And that's a big boy room to sit in there and say, let's run that back and look at it again. You tell me why, fill in the blank, you made this play defensively. And you're held to a standard with your coaches, you're held to a standard with your teammates. What I like about Tennessee's culture, I saw it at the end of the Cincinnati game, I've seen it some tonight. This is a player-led team. Those voices of the upperclassmen, especially Folke and E. Pons, they're doing a lot of coaching for Rick Barnes, fixing the problem before the coach has to fix the problem. And that's what really, really good teams do, and Tennessee is one of them.
You see R.J. Wilson's pass just broke the courtside billboard.
Like broke it?
It went right through the lights, the First Horizon light, knocked out the logo.
I have people weighing in saying that you didn't appreciate my story nearly as much on Press Maravich as you should have. And these are people that I think have a great ear and a great eye for talent, by the way.
You know what? I want to hear what Darinoka has to say about it. I want to see if he's got a true appreciation, or Matt Stinchcomb. Maybe Matt Stinchcomb can do his Press Maravich impersonation.
We are going to get closer Saturday